is Maria Sweetlucky, and this time we're going to talk about human and the biodiversity crisis. Human activity is the driving force behind the current biodiversity crisis, which is causing great species loss in the short time period. Traditionally, ecologists have measured biodiversity in a general term for the variety of species present in a biosphere by taking into account both of numbers of species and their communities. Biodiversity can be estimated at the number of level of organization of living things. This estimation indexed, which came from information theory, our most useful and first step is quantifying biodiversity between and within ecosystems. Yet, they are less useful when the main concern of among conservation biologists is simply the loss of biodiversity. However, biologists recognize that measures of biodiversity in terms of species diversity may help focus on efforts to preserve biological or technological important elements of biodiversity. What causes biodiversity? The cichlids of Lake Victoria are a thumbnail sketch of contemporary rapid species loss caused by human activity occurring all over Earth. Extinction, a natural process of microevolution, occurs on the rate of about 1 out of 1 million species becoming extinct per year. The fossil record reveals that there have been 5 periods of mass extinction in history with much higher rates of species loss. The rate of species loss today is comparable to those periods of mass extinction. However, there is a major difference between the previous mass extinctions and current extinctions we are experiencing. Human activity, especially 3 human activities have a major impact. First, destruction of habitat. Second, introduction of exotic invasive species and also over-harvesting. And last is predictions of species loss within the next century. A tiny amount of time in geological timescales range from 10% to 50%. The 5 previous extinctions on this scale were caused by cataclysmic events that changed the course of history of life in each instance. Earth is now in one of those times. What are the types of biodiversity? First, genetic diversity. Second, ecosystem diversity. And also, human-derived diversity are measures of biodiversity that currently define life on Earth. Scientists generally accept that the term biodiversity describes the number and kinds of species in a location or on the planet. Species can be difficult to define, but most biologists still feel comfortable with the concept of are able to identify and count eukaryotic species in most contexts. Biologists have also identified alternate measures of biodiversity, some of which are important for planning how to preserve biodiversity. Genetic diversity is one of the most alternate concepts. Genetic diversity or variation is a raw material for adaptation in a species. A species' future potential for adaptation depends on genetic diversity, held on genomes and individuals in populations that make up species. The same is true for higher taxonomic categories. A genus with very different types of species will have more genetic diversity than a genus with species that look alike that have similar ecologies. If there were a choice between one of these genera, species will be preserved. The one with the greatest potential for subsequent evolution is the most genetically diverse one. It would be ideal not to have to make so much choices, but increasingly this may be the norm. Many genes code for proteins which in turn carry out metabolic processes that keep organisms alive and reproducing. Genetic diversity can be measured as chemical diversity in that different species produce a variety of chemicals in their cells. Both proteins as well as the products and byproducts of metabolisms, this chemical diversity has potential benefit for humans and a source of pharmaceuticals, so it provides one way to measure diversity that is important to human health and welfare. Humans have generated diversity in domestic animals, plants, and fungi. This diversity is also suffering losses because of migration, market forces, and increasing globalism in agriculture, especially in heavily populated regions such as China, India, and Japan. The human population directly depends on this diversity as a stable food source. Its decline is troubling to biologists and agricultural scientists. It is also useful to define ecosystem diversity, the number of different ecosystems of the planet or in a given geographic area. Whole ecosystem can disappear even if some of the species might survive by adapting to other ecosystems. The loss of an ecosystem means the loss of interactions between species. The loss of unique features of co-adaptation and the loss of biological productivity an ecosystem is able to create. I think that's all for today. My name is Maria Sweet Lucky and see you in my next video. Bye!